MKBLP's series of Zoom interviews. I'm delighted that we're joined today by Stuart, the Chief Executive of Destination Milton Keynes. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. How are you? Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm doing very well, just back from furlough, so things have become very interesting.
Well, you've been in post now for around 8 months, I think, and it was a big move from that senior post in a huge commercial corporate organisation to the chief executive of a much smaller, locally focused membership organisation. What's that transition been like, and how's it been going?
The transition has been really, really good. Very enjoyable, very liberating, having worked for a big corporate for 17 years at Global Radio, and now working for a very small not-for-profit organisation. But we have a strong board of directors who give me a huge level of trust, and that allows me to be very autonomous. So that's, like I say, that's a real positive. It's a massive culture shock in terms of having worked for a large corporate. So all the resources that I was used to having in terms of spreadsheets, reports, data and information, I'm now having to do myself. But like I say, it's been a really good transition. But we really had a big job on our hands. So the real focus was to re-engage with the members and the key stakeholders. We've rewritten the business plan, and we've secured some key funding. And up to March, we were looking forward to expanding the business and ongoing. But of course, the advent of COVID-19 has meant that those plans have slowed down somewhat, but we're still very positive about the future.
Yeah, of course. So that's really good to hear. And as you say, COVID-19 has had such a dramatic effect, and particularly in that entertainment, leisure, hospitality industry, in which lockdown has the most significant impact. What are you hearing from your members and from your businesses? What's the general kind of vibe about the whole thing?
I think I'd love to be super upbeat, but for the purposes of this interview and generally, I think even with the most recent announcements from government, I think we have to accept that for retail, hospitality and leisure, and the existence of a virus with no vaccine, the short and the medium term does look very, very difficult. In terms of DMK, I was immediately furloughed, and I've only returned to work last week. The Visit Britain have managed to get a grant where the amount I was getting for furlough has been replaced with the same amount, but it means I can now get back to work to help Milton Keynes and the visitor economy bounce back. But I am concerned that looking at the sectors we represent, that we're certainly looking at late this year, possibly even early next year, before we can see any significant recovery. Because I think that social distancing is going to cause issues for anybody where there are groups of people gathering together. And like I say, the vast majority of our members are in that kind of game.
And what is the feeling around the nature of the government support? I mean, it sounds like you've managed to secure access to a route to keep DMK active, which is really important during this time. And are you picking up any feedback on your members' ability to access the support the government has got out there, or feelings about what different types of support they might require?
Yeah, I think my personal view, and certainly the view of the people I've spoken to, although it has been difficult talking to some members and people within the sector, is actually the government has been pretty good. I think we were all relatively positively surprised at the job retention scheme and the loan system. There are some loopholes and some bits in there where some people can't get access to funding or support, but generally I think it's been received quite well. Of course, there's never enough, and we would always, want more, but I think these are unprecedented times, and overall I think the government's done pretty well, and it's easy to criticise, but I think that the reality is not only the right, let's go again. Okay, yes. So so equally, I think it is very easy to criticise, but I believe that actually within our industry, the visitor economy, and generally in business in the UK, I think the reality is that actually the industry itself and the exceptional individuals within those industries will actually find solutions. I think being sensible, adaptable, and being resilient will mean that we'll find solutions to most of these problems and return to opening our businesses and seeing customers return.
I mean, you mentioned social distancing as a very specific issue for the industries that DMK is working with, and I completely agree that whole adaptability and resilience, we are seeing it even in the midst of it. Are there examples of how the sorts of businesses you're working with have been able to adapt, maybe do things online or do things differently?
Yeah, so we've seen some brilliant examples of the industry adapting. You know, whether it's been restaurants opening up, doing deliveries, and that kind of thing. Pubs even delivering beer, although I think they got into trouble for doing that. But there's been some really good examples of that adaptation. But I think in general terms, social distancing, which, like I say, I think is going to be with us for quite a while, is going to restrict movement, it's going to reduce capacity, and it's going to cost money and time to adapt to. And I think most of the businesses in the visitor economy sector are going to struggle to return to full capacity, and therefore profits will be down, and that inevitably will mean, you know, really difficult decisions being made about cost cutting and possible redundancies. So, you know, it is a worry. I think that there's a myriad of support mechanisms out there, but I think that without profit, businesses are going to really struggle. So I think that at the moment we really need to do everything we can to support and empathise, you know, with those organisations.
I wonder if there's something too about consumer confidence. So it's not just the government relaxing the rules, it's actually what do we need to do to give people the confidence to take advantage of any relaxation in lockdown? Will people actually want to go and hold a menu or pay for a drink, or, you know, be in a group of strangers that they haven't been in for so long? Is there anything you think that we could all be doing to try and support that building up customer confidence?
Well, I think a phrase that I've kind of coined recently that I think rings true is that future socialising will take place in trusted environments and in trusted groups. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of asking people in the visitor economy as I'm talking to them, so what does that mean for your business? How will you attract customers back who either do not trust the environment that they previously did or the group that they're in? Existing and new customers are going to be scared of the prospect of either contracting or passing on the virus. So what measures can the industry take to improve perceptions, increase trust, and reduce anxiety about the offer that any of those organisations kind of want to put forward to the public? As we said, you know, the positive side is there are already lots of good examples of where businesses have adapted. But equally, the big question is, once the initial bounce from people who are keen to get out of lockdown go out, and we've seen today people going back to garden centres straight away because they can, but I do wonder how many people have changed habits. You know, we're cooking and baking at home, we're exercising at home, we're being entertained at home, and we, after probably 3 months, they reckon a habit takes to form. How many have already experienced, you know, we've saved, certainly for myself, I've saved money in fuel, I don't pay for lunch out during the lockdown. So what does that mean for the future in terms of whether my habits will change, whether I'll drive less, work from home more, and never buy a lunch out again? Who knows? People who know me will probably know that I don't buy lunch very often.
I was going to say, I think reloading and loading and reloading the dishwasher is never a habit I am going to form. Can't wait to see it.
So I think that's a really core part of, you know, as the public's habits have changed and their expectations change, you know, the visitor economy and the people within the destination Milton Keynes kind of remit really need to think long and hard about what that new customer is going to want and feel.
So that trust point that you made, I think, is such an important one, and for all of us in business or any organisation, there's also something about, will our staff trust us to look after them, to make sure they are kept safe and well as well. So I mean, is that something that DMK and the national organisations that you work with, like Visit Britain, are able to try and tackle head on?
At the moment, I've spoken to Visit Britain a couple of times this week already. They are being... where did we get to? Visit Britain?
Well, I think start again from Visit Britain. You've spoken to Visit Britain a couple of times.
So yeah. I've spoken to Visit Britain a couple of times this week. They are being quite straight and referring everything to the government pages on COVID-19 and support. But I know in the background they are working on some solutions about, one, how to keep customers safe in terms of social distancing, but also some possible solutions about how to keep their staff safe. But everybody I've spoken to, including Visit Britain, are saying that businesses are going to find it really difficult, either because it's impossible to do, or because the cost of doing it just doesn't make it worth it. And I think these are the issues that they're going to really have to try and sort out. So, you know, it's going to prove difficult. I have ultimate faith that business will find some good solutions, but right now there is a lot of fear about how capacity and costs will be affected massively.
Yes, that's right, isn't it? I mean, there will be trailblazers and there will be solutions, but it will take time to work out what the new reality is, and as you say, whether or not people's habits have changed for good or will be different. You mentioned the personal benefit of not having to do quite so much commuting and travelling. I think that we have all seen news around how the environment is benefiting from our challenges. Do you think that this will put the green agenda higher up on businesses' agenda, and what might that mean for the visitor economy?
Yeah, I think both are a consideration for, you know, not just the green economy, but just the efficiency of what we do. You know, people not travelling to work so often, and like I say, cooking from home, exercising from home. I just think that there is a much greater kind of emphasis in people's heads right now about caring for others, about the green economy, about the environment. And so I think that those things were on the agenda quite heavily before coronavirus. And I think what it has done is focus people's minds on perhaps a slightly more caring society, dare I say, and actually not a bad thing. But I do think that business, as it returns, cannot assume that what they used to do will be successful post-coronavirus. I think that businesses that were operating in a poor manner before coronavirus will really struggle, and even businesses that were operating in a strong, green and kind of caring manner before coronavirus will have to think again about about the customer being king.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think there are some brands that have thrived through this crisis, through the values and culture they portray. Some brands that have maybe won't come out of it without having to really rethink and reinvent what they stand for. And I think your insights have been really helpful in illuminating that whole visitor economy and some of the specific challenges, as well as setting that in a broader local and national context. Have you got any kind of concluding words about immediate things that organisations could be doing, or even some of the longer term strategies that they could think about taking forward?
Yeah, I think my background has always been marketing and sales, and I think that, as I said before, you know, for years businesses have talked about the customer being king, and quite often what we've seen was a superficial expression or action more based on profit or stakeholder benefits than really looking after the customers. I do think that what coronavirus will force us to do is to really think about customer satisfaction, real customer care, a real understanding of what customers want and what customers want to hear and how they want to be treated in the future. And And so, you know, the marketing of your organization will need to change as the priorities of your customers have changed. Their perceived needs and wants will have changed. And therefore your message to attract them into your business, your organization, into your offer will need to change. I think the platforms and the media that we use or have used in the past may need to change, because people are clearly, social media has been very strong during this period. So will that mean that some of the traditional platforms are more or less trusted? I really don't know, but I think we will see much more focus on that. And I think that finally, the marketing and PR strategies not only need to show customer care, but businesses will actively need to be able to demonstrate great customer care, so that when people enter their business or enter that organization's offer, they can genuinely see that this business has thought about your care, your safety, and the new environment that we're in. And so that, for me, is very much a marketing and PR strategy, as well as you know, a core change to business. So as I said before, when they are being entertained, experiencing your offer, or just socializing, are they, and do they feel that they're in a trusted group and a trusted environment? If they do, then your business has as much chance of success as anybody else's.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much, Ian. It sounds like DMK and its members are in really good hands, and that you and the organisation can provide a lot of support to your members, both now at this, in the immediacy of it, and going forward as we collectively all work out how we're going to restart and reboot and bounce back. So thank you so much for spending time with us this afternoon, and I'm really looking forward to actually properly seeing you as soon as possible.
Ditto. Thanks, Julie, and I'll speak to you all again soon.
Okay, take care.